Hey guys, before we get started on this episode, just wanted to remind you that the Golden State with Mates Patreon is now live with up to 5 bonus podcast episodes every week, along with a few in-depth written articles covering the Warriors and the NBA. After giving away a brand new Nike Stephen Curry jersey earlier in the month, I'm now giving away a brand new copy of NBA 2K26 in the month of November on your choice of platform for the winner that will be drawn among Best Mate members. If you haven't checked it out already, I'll leave a link in the description. It'd be great if you could check it out. Coming up on this episode, 6 major takeaways as the Warriors get back on the winners list with a 118-107 victory against the Phoenix Suns at Chase Center on Tuesday night. Alrighty, welcome back to the Golden State with Mates podcast. Quick episode here. It's about 8:30 p.m. my time. I've just got back from dinner and I want to go to sleep. But I did want to also give you guys a bit of a recap from Golden State's 11-point victory over the Phoenix Suns, a much-needed one after, obviously, losses to the Milwaukee Bucks and Indiana Pacers over the last 2 games. Disastrous results there. Threatened to be so again a little bit in the second half. The Warriors led by 24 early in the third quarter and then let Phoenix get back into the game a little bit concerningly, it must be said, late third, early fourth quarter. But they managed to hang on and move to 5-3 on the season. Some major takeaways from this game. I want to start with Quinten Post, who had his best or second best performance of the season in this game. Got the start as the Warriors went big again to try and match up with Mark Williams, who Williams himself, must be said, played fairly well with 16 points and 16 rebounds. But that shouldn't take away from the fact Quinten Post was really good. He had a series of 3-pointers in the first quarter. The pick and pop game with him is such a huge threat and offers a different element to the Warrior offense in a way that must be said, like Post right now so far this season has been better than Al Horford. And he's just a better 3-point shooter, it must be said. Now, I know during the preseason / it might have even been earlier that in the offseason when we were talking about the addition of Horford. I know people came back at me for suggesting that Post was a better 3-point shooter than Al Horford. And I kind of took that on the chin and was like, well, you might be right based on the fact we've only seen 1 year of it from Quinten Post. But man, it feels like you can feed him beyond the arc in a way that you don't necessarily do with Horford. Like Horford kind of camps out in the corner and just waits for his corner threes. Post is like, he actually prefers the top of the arc from deeper. And so it was great to see him and Kuminga combine on a couple of occasions. I think him and Steph might have on a pick and pop as well one time in the third quarter. And he was huge, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 5 of 7 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three-point range, plus 16 in 27 minutes. And it just reiterates to me that I cannot fathom the minutes that he played 22 combined minutes against Milwaukee and Indiana over the previous 2 games. I cannot fathom how he played that little minutes in those 2 games. Yes, different opposition on the road. I understand it. But man, like those 2 games have come in the middle of 2 really great games between the Clippers and now today against the Suns. And I'm sorry, I just, regardless of matchup, sometimes, like you just, as I keep saying, you just got to play your best players. And right now, Quinten Post is one of the more informed Warrior players, I think, when he gets the opportunity. And he's now a plus 52 and 116 minutes on the floor this season. The only better Warrior than that is Draymond Green at plus 69 in 237 minutes. Post is up now to 40% from 3 on the season. But it's not even like the 3-point shooting to me, because I could have come into the season and told you that Quinten Post is probably going to shoot around 40% from 3. That's just who I think he is. I think he's a knockdown 7-foot shooter. I think that's who he is. But to be a long-term player in this league and to be a legit 20 to 25 to 30-minute rotation piece for the Warriors, it's clearly down to his defense and his rebounding. And again, he had a couple of blocks in this game. He had 6 boards. I thought he was really physical inside. Jumped on the floor looking for a loose ball at one point. I just thought he's been really, really good in terms of his interior defense and providing a far greater presence than what he was early in his rookie year. And even going back to the first 3 games of this season, where I was putting my hand up saying, okay, so the Warriors need to find another big man to add to their rotation because Quinten Post and Trayce Jackson-Davis aren't cutting it. And now that's kind of dissipated. I still wouldn't mind them going after another big, but it's kind of dissipated if Quinten Post is going to play like that. And things can change, right? At that point, a couple of weeks ago, Quinten Post wasn't really delivering for the Warriors and Steve Kerr didn't have faith and trust in him. Now, in the last few games, I think he's really delivering for the Warriors. And yet, Steve Kerr still doesn't really trust or have faith in him. Like, he played a season high 27 minutes in this game, and I'd argue he should have played more. There are times out there on the floor where Draymond Green is again playing as a small ball five, and he just doesn't need to be. Like, if Quinten Post is going to play like this, then just why can't Post play more? Again, he's a plus 16 in this game. Like, there was a time where Draymond was trying to box out Mark Williams, and Mark Williams like tipped it over to a teammate, and the Suns got a layup, and Draymond was complaining at the officials for for missing a potential foul on Williams going over the back. And I'm there kind of thinking to myself, well, if Post's in the game, that probably just doesn't happen, and Draymond doesn't have to complain about that kind of stuff, right? Because he's not being asked to play 5-6 inches, above his height. So just put Post out there for more minutes. And so, I don't know, he's been really impressive to me, and I'm going to be interested to see his minutes without Horford is the really interesting factor to this, because they seem to be really limited, albeit he did play, 24, 25 minutes against the Clippers when Horford was available going back to last week. So, I don't know, I just really like what I'm seeing from him right now, and I think he should be playing more, and I think a lot of Warrior fans would agree with that, because, again, not only is he a knockdown shooter and one of Golden State's best shooters, it must be said, but also he's playing some really strong interior defense and rebounding at a reasonable level. And I think he's growing, he's developing. He's clearly developed the defensive side of his game, the rebounding from his rookie year. That's a big plus. But there's also stuff with him, like there was a play in the first quarter, he got the ball on the roll, and I think he should have taken it to the rim, and instead he kicked it out to Jimmy for a corner three, and it was wide open. So it was like not a bad play, but Jimmy missed it, and I know Jimmy's shooting like 50% from three on the season, but I was like looking at that thinking, QP should probably be going up with a layup in that situation. And then fortunately later in the game, he got one on the roll as well, and he kind of span into this jump hook, which I'm not sure if it was going to go in or not, but Mark Williams just swatted it away, and it was called for a goaltend. But I don't mind that. Like, I think he's got a little bit more than just 3-point shooting, and he's showing that with his defense. And of course, I think as he gains more confidence, more strength, hopefully he can go up a little bit stronger at the rim as well, particularly on some of these roles where, I mean, it's a nice change-up. It's legitimately a nice change-up when teams think he's just going to pop all the time. Well, if he's actually capable of rolling and either finishing in the basket or finding a cutter or an open shooter or whatever, which, again, I think he's capable of that in time. So I like the development in his game certainly over the past week. Even going back to that Grizzlies game, where I don't think he put up huge numbers points-wise, but I thought he was better defensively. Talking of the center rotation, TJD got some minutes in this game. I think he played 16. He had 7 points. I tweeted out before the game about the potential of waiving TJD and signing Ben Simmons, which I spoke about on the Patreon earlier this morning as well, my time. I still think that's a legitimate option. I think Ben Simmons has some upside that TJD doesn't. Obviously, both very limited offensive players, but I think Simmons has a little bit more in the way of ball handling, obviously, and a little bit more defensive versatility as well. However, TJD was quite good in this game. And after I spoke about that and after I tweeted it out and got some, I wouldn't say it went viral, but it got some, a lot of people saw it on Twitter. And there were quite a few people agreeing with me, I think, that could be a legitimate option, as much as I don't think it will happen. And I think TJD took that a little bit personally and came out and had really good minutes in the first half. Second half, not so much. But I thought it was a solid enough game from him. Whether he gets minutes tomorrow against Sabonis and with Horford back, unlikely. But I still appreciate the fact that he's obviously been iced out of the rotation, hasn't played much, played 26 minutes over the first 7 games, 14 MPs, and to come in and provide that kind of impact. You could see some of the stuff he does in terms of, pods through a alley-oop to him at one point that he threw down. Like, he's obviously got the athletic traits that Post and Horford just simply do not have. So he does provide an extra element. Unfortunately for him, the other aspect to this would be you'd hope with his athleticism that he'd be more of a rim protector / shot blocker than Horford and Post, but he's not. He's not to me. Like, I actually think Horford, and now Post development, I don't think TJD has the defensive upside compared to those two guys, which means he's still third string big man in the rotation, no doubt about that. But still, nice game for him. I wanted to give him a shout out. If the Warriors, like I just mentioned before, Post should just be playing more and they shouldn't be going small so much. But if they are going to go small, I still don't understand. I've mentioned this before. I don't know why Pods has to be the only sole option in the starting lineup when the Warriors go small. Why can't it be Moody? Why can't it be Moody? Because this game again reiterated to me, he should never be playing under 20 minutes a game in any game he plays. The last two games in Milwaukee, he played less than 10 minutes, which is an absolute disgrace. Aside from caveat, he did go into that game questionable with the thumb soreness. So I'm going to attribute his lack of playing time down to that. Sunday against the Pacers, he played 16 minutes, I think. He's just too impactful on both ends of the floor. He's just too good on both ends of the floor to be playing less than 20 minutes because there's so many guys, particularly bench guys, they are like one-way specialists. They're either, Buddy Hield, who's a sharpshooter, and that's about it, or they're Gary Payton II, who's a defensive-minded player and offensive limitations. Like, there's usually limitations with these bench players on one end of the floor, right? And they're specialists. Moses Moody isn't. He's like a legit 3-and-D. He can go and guard Devin Booker as he did in the second half, and he can knock down threes for you as well, which one suggests that he probably he's a genuine starting lineup option, which he was before he got injured in the pre. Like, he was going to be the starter, right, in preseason, and then unfortunately suffered the calf injury, which, again, shame for him. Jonathan Kuminga has since kind of capitalized on that. And I don't think was Moody better than Kuminga in this game? Yes. Did Moody close over Kuminga in this game? Yes. Does Moody deserve to jump Kuminga in the starting lineup? No, I don't think so. I think it wasn't a great game from him. It wasn't a complete disastrous game from him either, I wouldn't suggest. So one iffy game from Kuminga doesn't lend itself to him pushing back to the bench and Moody back into the starting lineup. However, it does reiterate Moody to me in this game that he should be playing at least 20 minutes a game, regardless of whether he's starting or coming off the bench. And if the Warriors are going to start small, why does it have to be Steph, Pods, Kuminga, Butler, or Butler, Kuminga, Green? Why can't it be Steph, Moody, Butler, Kuminga, Green? Because in that instance, at least you're providing a little bit more size. And I wrote about this the other day. Like, Pods has some liabilities defensively. He chooses well sometimes in terms of drawing charges. He took one on Grayson Allen where it wasn't even at the rim in this game. It was like out on the perimeter. That's fine. He does, he's obviously not huge. He's not short. He's not small, but he's not big either, Pods. He doesn't have great lateral quickness. So he's a little bit of a light. He's not a primary point of attack defender, Brandon Bajemski. And I just think the Warriors need that. If they're going to go small, the Warriors need to retain some kind of defense and some kind of size and length, and Moody provides that in spades compared to Pods. So why isn't it Steph, Moody, Kuminga, Jimmy, Draymond? You've still got the ball handling and stuff of Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy, and Kuminga, I think, can still handle the ball a little bit as well. He's shown that he's making good passes and executing and making good decisions so far this season. So it's not like you need Pods' ball handling and playmaking stuff out there in that kind of lineup, I don't think. So Moody should be in that. And as much as it was disappointing that Jimmy, obviously with the lower back soreness, didn't participate in the second half, I actually liked the kind of lineup that Steve came out with to open the third quarter with Steph, Moody, JK, Dre, and Post. I didn't mind that kind of lineup. So whenever Jimmy misses games, Moody's are pretty obvious in there. And even if they want to go small and remove Post from the starting lineup, which I don't think they should do too often, but if they do, I think Moody should be just as much of a candidate for that fifth role as Pods. So again, Moses Moody, 24 points, season high for him. I think he was 5 of 8 from 3-point range, 5 rebounds, couple of assists, plus 15 in 34 minutes. He was probably, or in fact, not even probably, definitely the player of the game from a Golden State standpoint. Number 4, Devin Booker goes for 38 points, 13 of 24 shooting. So they did have Kuminga on him primarily in the first half and then Moody at the start of the second half, and Booker lit both of them up, it must be said. That's the third straight game where the Warriors have been torched by an opposing guard, obviously going back to Ryan Rollins going for 32, 32, 4 and 8 assists on Thursday against the Bucks. Quentin Jackson, still not sure who that guy is, but whatever. He went for 25 and 10 in a double-double on Saturday against the Pacers. And now Booker goes for 38. And even if we go back to the first half against the Clippers, Harden did have 20 in that first half. Now, he also had 0 assists, didn't score in the second half, so it was a fine performance, I suppose, from the Warriors, particularly, obviously, defensively. But they do struggle, right? This is a ongoing trend here. And part of this is, like, Rollins, a big surprise. Quinten Jackson, the biggest surprise of all. Like, I'm not sure that guy's ever going to have 25 and 10 in an NBA game ever again. Devin Booker's like just a flat out star. So some of this stuff is like, sometimes guys are just going to be, as Fitz and Clenner keep saying on the broadcast, and everyone says offense beats defense in this league, which is very true. And so I don't give too much fault to Kuminga and Moody for, Devin Booker going for 38 in a very similar way as obviously when Luka went for 40 plus on opening night. It's like, sometimes you just got to try and make things as difficult as possible, and sometimes they're too good. But the Warriors still do have concerns with their point of attack. Defense, Moody and Kuminga, the biggest options right now. What can Melton provide you when he comes back? Do the Warriors need to look at another option? I don't know. We'll wait and see. Was interesting, though, that the Suns won Booker's minutes. Booker played nearly 40 minutes in this game, and they were a +8 in his minutes as he scored 38 points. And yet we're outscored by 19 in the less than 10 minutes he was on the bench. So the Warriors, credit to them, they took advantage of the non-Booker minutes in a big, big way and assured a victory, a much-needed victory to move to 5-3 on the season. Booker went for 38, but there was no GP2 and no Will Richard, which is a real surprise to me. So I went back through, and this was GP2's first DNP when active since he returned to the franchise, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have a DNP when active in the championship year of 2021-22 as well. Then he obviously left, went to Portland, came back mid-season trade for James Wiseman. Hasn't been a DNP when active since, right? And so I'm not actually sure. I just tweeted out that, hey, he hasn't been since he returned to the franchise. I looked through and he definitely wasn't in the championship year either. So it's been years and years and years, basically, is what I'm saying, since GP2 was a full-on DNP. And he was in this game, and it doesn't come as a total shock. But then when you look at the fact Pat Spencer got minutes and Pat Spencer got legit minutes. He played like over 11 minutes. And was it the right decision? Yeah, Pat Spencer was actually pretty good in this game. He hit a big 3 in the second half. Was really good in the first half. I think he had 7, 3, and 4 with a couple of steals in there as well, and was a +5. So the Pat Spencer minutes were fine. Guy Santos played a little bit in the second half as well, but no GP2 and no Will Richard, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me because I thought both of them were kind of fighting for the same role, and at least one of them, until Melton and or Seth Curry come back, that they would be playing. One of them would be playing at least like 7-8 minutes a game minimum. Turns out they were both out of the rotation in this game, so it is what it is. It's, again, not overly a shock given we've seen GP2 out of the rotation for some of these second halves recently. But I don't know. It's the decision to bring him back, locker room vibes, cool, whatever. Still not the greatest decision I wouldn't have thought from an on-court standpoint. And it's just fascinating that Booker was going off, and at no point did Steve look at GP2 and say, get your butt in the game. We need a defensive stopper in here, which he just really isn't at this point, it must be said. So we'll wait and see what happens with him moving forward. But with Melton returning, don't know where he's getting these minutes. And if Richard's not getting minutes either, I don't know where they're coming from, really. And number 6, so Steph finishes with 28 points in this game. Still not overly efficient, it must be said. He was 9 of 23 shooting from the floor. Seems to me over these last 3 games, he's just forcing and pushing things a little bit. Maybe it's just his normal self and he's just not making the shots. And so it looks like he's because some of the stuff, like some of the shots he's taking, I'm like, man, that's not a good shot. Like, that's just not really. And then I've kind of got to remind myself, hang on, it's Steph Curry. It's one of the greatest shot makers, one of the most talented players of all time. So he does make those shots, right? And so maybe I'm just overthinking things a little bit. But it does seem like he's forcing a little bit. Part of it also might be the fact that he's been dealing with this cold that he revealed after the game. And Steve immediately in his press conference said Steph Curry will not play tomorrow in Sacramento against the Kings. So Steph will not play. That'll be the first game he misses this season. And of course, Jimmy as well, obviously didn't play in the second half due to lower back soreness, went into the game questionable and then was able to play the first half, played 14 minutes, only scored 2 points. He was fine. I mean, the Warriors were like a plus 14 in his 14 minutes or something. 4 rebounds, couple of assists. He was fine, but then didn't close the first half and didn't come back in the second half. I would imagine his status for Wednesday's game against the Kings is, well, it is questionable. And I don't know, I'd find it unlikely for him to play again. I don't know anything. We'll wait and see. I do wonder if Steph and Jimmy are both out, do you rest Draymond as well and say, all right, let's just use this game as a rest for all three guys? Can you afford? This is where the losses to Milwaukee and Indiana just really, really hurt. Like really hurt. Because if you'd won at least one of them, they should have won both, but if they'd won at least one of them, then all of a sudden you'd be 7-2, right? Sorry, you'd be 6-2 right now rather than 5-3. And you could say, well, even if we lose tomorrow, it'll be 6-3. That's still pretty good rather than 5-4, which sounds like then you're right up next to 500 again kind of thing. So that's where those two losses really hurt, because now it kind of means you can't really afford, like you've had losses now to Portland, who probably won't be a playoff team. Although I think they're talented and good. You've lost to Milwaukee without Giannis and Indiana, who are not going to make the playoffs. And if you lose to Sacramento, like that's 4 pretty bad losses to start the season when you could have easily been 7-2 or 6-3, which they still could be, or 8-1, anything like that. So I'm just fascinated because Draymond, we know when his other veteran guys are sitting, if Steph and Jimmy are sitting, is Draymond really going to give it? I'm sorry to use my language, excuse my language, but is Draymond really going to give a shit if Steph and Jimmy are out in this game? Is it actually going to be beneficial for the Warriors to have him on the floor? Maybe not. So that's what I'm really fascinated in. If Draymond does play, and Jimmy does play, then I'd probably expect the starting lineup to be Pods, Jimmy, JK, Dre, Post. I think you'd need to have Pods in there for ball handling reasons without Steph rather than have Moody in there. I suppose you could say, all right, Jimmy, you're our point guard, and go Jimmy, Moody, JK, Dre, Post, but I doubt it. I think Pods will start with Steph out. And then you'd have like Horford and Moody playing big minutes off the bench. If Jimmy's out and they say stuff it will rest Draymond as well, then I would just go full, and again, excuse the language, I would go full fuck it mode and just be like, young guys, your time to shine. All right. Try and make this a trap game for Sacramento and say, Kings, you are heavy favorites. We're giving you a win on the platter. We're going to play all our young guys. And I would go flat out youth and say starting lineup, Pods, Will Richard, Moody, JK, Post. That's our starting 5. If there's going to be no Steph, no Jimmy, no Draymond. Horford, Hield, Spencer, Santos, TJD, GP2 coming off the bench. Maybe some Jackson Rowe minutes as well. I don't know. But I'm just not sure it's beneficial to play Draymond if Steph and Jimmy are out. If Jimmy plays, I think Dre should play as well, and the Warriors should actually really try and win this game, even though it's going to be much more difficult without Steph. But let me know what you guys think. Any major takeaways for you from this victory over Phoenix? Good to see the Warriors get back to winning ways after a couple of disastrous games. Can they do so again against Sacramento on Wednesday? Clearly going to be much more difficult without Steph. But it's the Kings. I don't love them as a team. They do have some talent, so their team just doesn't make much sense. And so this is a game the Warriors should normally be winning, but without Steph, I'm assuming second night of back-to-back, Sacramento might actually be favorites. I haven't checked yet. But let me know any predictions you have for the game. Hopefully JK can go for 25 or 30 and win Golden State a game, just to rub it in to Sacramento a little bit more for not being able to trade for him during the free agency saga in the offseason. I'm going to finish it up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Golden State with Mates on Instagram and TikTok as well. Check out the Patreon, which is live as well. That'd be great if you could. Other than that, I'll see what I can do after the Kings game. These later games now, that in the last 2 weeks, it's like, I don't know for you, what's happened with you guys in America. Has daylight savings ended or something? And daylight savings has started for us. Basically, 2 weeks ago, 12 p.m. my time was 7 p.m. Pacific time. So the games would generally, like the preseason games, start at 12 o'clock. Now, all of a sudden, it's a 2-hour difference shift there, and these games are starting at 2. and then it just gets too close to dinner time. So it's annoying. But anyway, I'll finish up there. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.